The coffin was already closed when my phone vibrated. Once, then again. The sound cut through the chapel like a blade dragged across porcelain. I didn't look down. I didn't need to. I knew who it was before the screen went dark again. My cousin arrived late. He always did. Timing was his favorite form of dominance. The doors opened behind me. A draft followed, expensive cologne, soft laughter muted too quickly. The room adjusted around him, heads turned, whispers recalibrated, grief briefly interrupted by spectacle. And there she was, on his arm. Her fingers rested where mine used to, familiar, possessive, practiced. 5 years collapsed into a single breath. I stared at the back of the priest's neck while my pulse slowed itself on command. I'd trained it, taught it when to move and when to wait. She leaned in as they passed my row. Her lips brushed my ear. Not affectionate, surgical. "Guess I made the right choice?" she whispered. A pause. "You're still broke." I finally turned my head, met her eyes, and smiled. 5 years ago, she left with a suitcase and a smile she didn't bother to hide. She said she needed stability, growth, a future that didn't involve potential. She didn't say my cousin's name. She didn't have to. He'd always been there, at dinners, at holidays, laughing too loud, watching too closely, asking questions that weren't his to ask. I told myself it was coincidence, that people didn't trade souls for balance sheets, that love, even when it ended, ended honestly. I was wrong. The first crack came months later, a forwarded email, a contract I recognized, my proposal, rewritten, repackaged, submitted under a different name, his name. I didn't react. Reaction is how you reveal weakness. I watched. The second crack came when our grandmother stopped calling him, when her lawyer started calling me. The third came the night I saw her photo in a magazine, on his arm, headline glowing with obscene admiration. It wasn't jealousy that settled in my chest. It was understanding. She hadn't chosen wealth. She'd chosen proximity to power she thought she understood. And my cousin? He'd chosen theft, of ideas, of credit, of people. At the funeral, she squeezed his hand as if claiming territory. He scanned the room, hungry for witnesses, for validation. I stayed still. Storms are quieter at the center. I never confronted them. Confrontation is a gift. It warns. Instead, I listened. I let my cousin talk. He loved to. Over drinks, over dinners he thought were reconciliations. He bragged about acquisitions that weren't his, about vision he couldn't define. I let her speak too. Once. She called late, drunk on nostalgia or fear, I couldn't tell. She asked if I was okay, if I was surviving. I said yes. I wasn't lying. I traced the paper trail, followed signatures that didn't match handwriting, timelines that overlapped where they shouldn't, trusts quietly rerouted, assets temporarily parked. I found the line where my grandmother's patience ended. She'd known. She always knew who took and who built. I kept my face neutral at family gatherings, let them believe the narrative they'd written for me. The broke cousin, the almost man, the cautionary tale. Behind the curtain, I watched the structure tighten, legal, precise, unavoidable. The day my grandmother died, her lawyer called before the obituary went live. He didn't sound sad. He sounded relieved. At the reception, my cousin cornered me near the drinks. His suit was tailored arrogance, his smile rehearsed. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said. I handed him an envelope. No speech, no preamble. He opened it, skimmed, laughed once too sharp, then read again. The color drained fast. She noticed, stepped closer, read over his shoulder. Her hand dropped from his arm. The documents were clean, final. My grandmother's will, amendments dated 3 years back, control clauses, reversions, Everything he'd been flaunting, funds, properties, boards, had conditions he'd violated. All of it returned to me. He tried to speak, couldn't find the shape of the words. I leaned in, kept my voice low. "She knew who you were," I said. "She just waited for proof." She stared at me like I'd shifted dimensions. I didn't look back. Later, she found me alone, near the casket, where apologies go to die. "I didn't know," she said, too quickly. I nodded. That was worse. She searched my face for something: anger, longing, forgiveness, a crack she could enter. There wasn't one. "You said I was broke," I said calmly. She swallowed. I continued, "I let you believe that because people reveal themselves when they think they're winning." Behind us, my cousin argued with the lawyer, loud, desperate, small. I met her eyes one last time. "You didn't choose wrong," I said calmly. Her mouth opened, closed. I walked away. Outside, the air was cold and clean, the kind that strips illusions. I didn't feel triumphant. Victory implies a contest. This had been inevitability. 5 years ago, I lost a woman and gained silence. In that silence, I learned the shape of control, not over others, but over myself. They'd mistaken restraint for weakness, patience for poverty. The ground settled behind me as the chapel doors closed. I didn't look back. Some debts don't need collecting. They collapse under their own weight, and I was already gone.